Okay, good evening. Thank you very much for that, Keith. I've got about 10 minutes just to say a few words, really, about the campaign and why it's still so relevant and how it's going. Just to explain my background, I used to work in MI5, and along with David Shayler, we blew the whistle on a false flag terrorist attack in Libya in 1996. That was an attempt to assassinate Colonel Qaddafi. The attempt was carried out by so-called Islamic extremist terrorists in Libya. The attack went wrong, and it was also illegal under British law. Now, the attack was funded by MI6, and this is why David and I left MI5, and this is why we went public about our concerns about the crimes of MI5 and MI6. So I just want to say that as a sort of a contextual background, because what we're really discussing tonight is the possibility of a false flag terrorist attack on 9/11. Certainly, what is clearly established now in terms of a growing body of evidence is that the official version of what happened on 9/11 just does not add up. And we can tell that from eyewitness testimony, we can tell that from whistleblower testimony, and we can see that from scientific evidence. How far you go from that point is really your personal journey, what you can discover and do your own research. But I can say categorically that there is a very good chance that this was an inside job, carried out by rogue elements of the American administration. And the only thing that makes that possibility unique is the sheer scale and horror of that day. Because false flag terrorism is a standard weapon in the arsenals of governments and spies. Britain used it in the Libyan plot. Mossad certainly uses it on a number of occasions, one of which, again, David Shayler blew the whistle on, which was the bombing of the Israeli embassy back in 1994 in London. There was another bombing against a Jewish interest section in Buenos Aires that year as well, which has now been established to have been carried out by Mossad by a judicial inquiry in Argentina. And also the case of tragic Alexander Litvinenko. Now, it's interesting in the British press before Christmas, they always described him as a Russian dissident. He was, but he was also a Russian whistleblower. And again, what he blew the whistle on was state-sponsored false flag terrorism. In this case, some apartment blocks were bombed in Moscow in 1999, and that was blamed on the Chechens, and that was used as a pretext for the atrocious war in Chechnya, which has seen whole-scale abuses of human rights. Now, it turns out, of course, that that was carried out by the modern, fluffier, rebranded version of the KGB, which is now called the FSB. That is what Litvinenko blew the whistle on, and that might well be the reason why he paid the ultimate price. So, this is something that does go on. As I said, it's a standard weapon in the arsenal of spies and governments. And once you accept that, you have to look at any major terrorist atrocity and look at the evidence to see where it leads you. And that really is the premise for tonight's talk. And also to look at how an atrocity like that can be used. I mean, the way that 9/11 has been used is just appalling. It's taken us into illegal and unjustifiable wars in the Middle East. It's resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people in Iraq alone. And it's also the pretext for a whole-scale erosion of our traditional freedoms and our civil liberties in this country, and in the States, you hear from William. They're bringing in sweeping, draconian anti-terrorism legislation, which can be used against any of us. They are bringing in all sorts of acts of parliament that can just, at a sweep of a ministerial pen, quarantine us, stop us associating like this to talk about political ideas. They can even sequester our homes and demolish them under the Civil Contingency Act without any financial reparation due to the owner of that home. Have a look at it on the internet, it's frightening. And of course, the other horrors that are now going on in the UK in the name of the war on terror protecting us. Things like the fact that rendition flights, torture flights, are landing and refueling in our airports. Things like the fact they are putting innocent people in prison without trial for indefinite periods of time. Things like wanting to bring in an ID card and probably take it on to turning that into a microchip whereby they control us. This is frightening. We are sliding almost blindly into a totalitarian state, and we need to do something about this. And this is why the 9/11 truth movement is growing exponentially around the globe at the moment. People can see how 9/11 has been used. People can see where we're going because of 9/11. And it's not that it's the be-all and end-all, the 9/11 truth campaign. But the point is, we all know these abuses go on behind the scenes. But because 9/11 itself is so easy to expose as lies, and there's fabrication. That is why we can knock it out. It's like a keystone in the edifice of lies given to us by our Western governments. So if we can all make ourselves aware, do the research ourselves, don't believe what I'm saying tonight, but do your own research. There's a whole wealth of information out there. Make yourself aware, make your friends and family aware, your wider community, your MP. And let's just say this is enough, it's just enough. You've got to draw a line in the sand. We are not going to be gulled into further illegal wars or a possible strike against Iran. And I find it interesting as well today. I've just got two little pieces. One was a reply from the Scottish Stop the War coalition. They had a very successful meeting here earlier today. And Keith, our organiser, asked if William could address the meeting. Now, they still turned around and said they would not have a speaker from the 9/11 Truth campaign. The reason why the offer of a speaker was not supported was because, one, we already have a large number of speakers for a one-day conference, and two, the issue of conspiracy theory is not the most pressing at this point in time. Now, I really do fail to see how Stop the War, who are trying to stop further wars, are not interested in trying to analyse the possible cause of those wars. It doesn't make sense. It's an intellectually bankrupt position. And I have to say, the 9/11 issue may have started out possibly as a fringe issue on the internet, and I'm sure most people in the Stop the War Coalition don't read the Daily Mail, but perhaps they should have done today. There's a 2-page spread laying out all the key information about why the official version of 9/11 is a crock of lies. So this is going mainstream, and it's going mainstream fast, and our movement is growing fast around the globe. We've got to use it to stop a possible invasion of Iran. We've got to use it to stop totalitarianism creeping into our country. So please, do get involved. Give your details to Keith. Just spread the word. As I said, do your own research, raise your awareness. This is too important not to do at this stage. We do not want to be the generation that gives away our democracy in our country, and our children have to live in a police state, and that is the way we are going. So use this as a weapon to stop that slide away from democracy.